Our big slogan here is sharks should be revered, not feared.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hello, 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 and welcome back to the podcast that's all about ba-dum, 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 ba-da, 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 ba-da. That's right, y'all. It is time to talk about some sharks. So this week we are headed back to Adventure Aquarium to celebrate Shark Tooth Summer with Adventure Aquarium. Now, Shark Tooth Summer is a special event that is running at the aquarium from August 4th to September 5th, and it is an opportunity to learn all about sharks with daily shark chats, see them swimming with exclusive Top of Shark Realm tours, and also having some people hanging out in their shark tunnel to talk to you about the animals that you're seeing there. Adventure Aquarium has some really good shark displays, including having the world's longest shark bridge, which is a bridge that sharks can walk across using their... What? Oh, no, I'm sorry. It is a bridge that you can walk over and look down into the ocean habitat where many of the sharks live. So it's pretty cool to see all of the awesome shark stuff that they have at Adventure Aquarium. And we're going to talk today about sharks in general and about the species that they have at the aquarium. I'm going to be bringing you my interview with Erik Hanson, who is a biologist at Adventure Aquarium and had a lifelong dream of working with sharks that he has now fulfilled, which is always an awesome story that I like to share. And speaking of sharing, I want to share with you that you have the opportunity to support the pod by going to patreon.com/Rossifari, making sure that you're following along at Rossifari on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, at Rossifari Pod on TikTok, and make sure you hit subscribe on the show. And for those of you that decide to become patrons, there are a couple of perks. The big one is that every once in a while we throw some bonus audio your way, and this episode is one of those. Our patrons are going to get to hear some actual behind-the-scenes audio at the top of the shark habitat at Adventure Aquarium. For as little as $3 a month, you too can get bonus audio and hear cool things like that. And also like goofy mistakes I make and all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of fun. So patreon.com/Rossifari to join that team. So I think it's time we do the thing. Without further ado, here is my interview for Shark Tooth Summer with Erik Hanson of Adventure Aquarium. Dun, dun. All right, I'll stop. All right, so why don't we start off by you telling me who you are, where we are, and what you do here.
Hi, my name is Erik. We're at Adventure Aquarium in Camden, New Jersey, and I'm a senior biologist here, and I take care of our big Shark Realm exhibit.
That is really exciting. And we are here celebrating Shark Awareness Month. So I'm excited to really delve into this a little bit. I feel like sharks may be slightly misunderstood compared to a lot of captive animals.
Yeah, absolutely. We feel that way. Our big slogan here is sharks should be revered, not feared.
Ooh, I like it.
Because there is a huge misconception about sharks, and everybody thinks that a shark, as soon as you get in the water near a shark, the shark's going to bite you or something like that. But that's definitely not the case. Part of my job is to dive in the exhibit, and I'm around 21 sharks whenever I dive in Shark Realm, and not once have I ever felt unsafe in there because they just leave you alone.
Okay, then can you explain why you're missing a leg and half an arm? No, I can't. But the beauty of not having a video podcast, right?
It's genetic disorder.
That makes a lot of sense, though. And I want to talk a lot more about that, but I actually like to start off by connecting with the human. So, like, what got you into this world? Did you always want to work with sharks? Tell me about, like, little Erik growing up in animals.
Yeah, definitely. I remember just always being fascinated with the ocean, going down the shore every summer and being on the beach, and just being fascinated with the ocean and all the critters on the surf there. I remember walking around like a park in my town with my dad, and he'd be like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I was like, I don't know, work with animals, and I like fish. I like the ocean. He's like, "What about marine biology?" I was like, "What's that?" And he told me all about it, and I was like, from there I was hooked. So
Hooked.
Yeah, there you go. And growing up next to the aquarium here, like I was around when it was being when it was being built, and I was just always like, that was my goal, is to come work here. So I went to school for it. It's always been a dream of mine to work at an aquarium, work with animals, work with fish, work with sharks, all those kind of cool exotic animals. And, I went to University of Stockton, or Stockton University, whatever it's called now. And, 4-year degree, BS in marine science. And then, worked my way to get here. So I actually started off here as a volunteer, and then basically volunteered my Saturdays until I could get a job. And I got eventually hired on, started in the water quality lab, testing all the water samples around in the entire aquarium here. And then I got promoted up into a senior biologist eventually. And, working with sharks, it's a dream job.
That's really awesome. I love that. When you were in school, how much hands-on experience did you get?
Honestly, I did not get enough hands-on experience. I remember first semester freshman year, going out on a boat and trawling and seining for local species out in the bay. And I was like, this is awesome. This is what I want to do, getting that hands-on experience, being on a boat and that kind of stuff. But then as you progressed into the college field or career or whatever, school classes, it kind of got away from that as more classroom oriented stuff. So it wasn't very much hands-on stuff until I actually started volunteering here and learning what to do in an aquarium and how to take care of a system and how to take care of animals.
That's really cool that you got that on your own then, because I one of my gripes in life is just that college doesn't actually prep you for much.
Yeah.
I have a degree in human resources, which first of all, weirdly doesn't help me as a professional drummer. But then on top of that, when I got my degree, I realized I couldn't go work in an HR department. I could have, but they would have had to teach me what to do.
Right.
I knew a ton of laws, and I knew, very cool, obscure facts about unions and stuff. But I didn't actually know how to go sit at a desk and,
human resource.
Yes, exactly.
It's definitely hard. I mean, getting hands-on experience is definitely key to it. It gave me a foot in the door. So, volunteering was essential to my career.
That's very cool. So you worked in a water quality lab here, right? So you tested all of the water quality. Now, obviously that's important. This is an aquarium, and most of the things here live in water, so the quality has to be good. What kind of testing goes into that? How big of a procedure is that? I mean, you make it, I guess it sounds like it's a full-time job.
It is a full-time job. It's daily. I mean, the aquarium, all the exhibits are broken up into galleries. So each individual biologist has their own gallery. We run each of their galleries every other week. So we have, 10 days of basically testing. Some of our exhibits, like our ocean realm, our shark realm, our hippos, penguins, all those big exhibits get treated with ozone to help with water clarity. And so we have to test that every single day to make sure that those water quality parameters are within, certain specifications for those animals. So, it's an everyday job. It's a lot of work. We test, pH, alkalinity, salinity every day. And then even corals, we have a coral day that we call, because corals are, require a lot of different water quality parameters like calcium, magnesium, iodine. So there's phosphates. There's a bunch of tests that we do, and it's a full-time job. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. And how long were you in that position?
About 2 years, 2.5 years, probably, I want to say.
So you want to work with animals, and you come here and you spend 2.5 years playing with water
Yeah.
without the animals just to get to that next level.
Yeah.
Nice. That's
Well,
really cool.
I had some, when I was in the water quality lab, I actually had some other holding exhibits.
Okay.
So I had some, animals to take care of, some behind the scenes exhibits and stuff like that. So it gave me some experience. So when I moved out of the water quality lab, I had something
That's
to
cool.
base
So
my...
you did get to do some husbandry.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
cool. What was your favorite or coolest animal that you worked with at that time?
I think that my favorite animal that I worked with was this little blue spotted jawfish. They're really cool, beautiful animal. They like to bury in the sand and kind of just have like a little cave that they kind of come in and out of. So I had him in an exhibit, and I thought I lost him for a while, and then I found him, and he was in a bad spot, so I had to rehab him back into exhibitable condition. And once I got him back in there, he was awesome. So he was a fun guy.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's very cool. And so then you move on and you get to the topic of today's episode, which is sharks. And I have so many thoughts and so many questions about sharks, but I think right now, I'm just knowing my listeners a little bit, I feel like the number one question on everyone's mind is aquariums, whether here or elsewhere, have sharks in with other animals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't that kind of like having somebody live at a buffet and telling them they can't eat the food? How does this work?
Yeah.
Why are you not constantly cycling through a bunch of eaten fish?
Yeah, I mean, that's the question we get asked a lot, right? Basically, we feed our sharks 3 times a week. We feed them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so that keeps them pretty well fed, satiated. So, sharks out in the wild, they'll eat once a week, once every other week, depending upon the size of their meal. They don't need to eat all the time. Like, that's what everybody thinks. The sharks are just mindless eating machines. They're not. They don't care about the fish that are in the exhibit with them. They swim around. They'll swim right across their mouth, and they don't care. They don't bite at them because they're well fed. We feed them different things. So everything that we feed them is restaurant quality food. So they're spoiled a little bit. Yeah, we get them from a restaurant distributor. So it's all like restaurant quality food. And, they have a choice and control of whether they want to eat that day or whether they don't. Some of our sharks are pigs. They love to eat. Every time we feed, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, there's this one shark that eats everything. So she doesn't care. So she's ready to eat all the time, but she doesn't go after any of the fish in the exhibit. So they're pretty well fed for it. So they don't need to expel that energy to go after a healthy fish. They're not going to chase after it. So they're just, all right, we're cool.
That makes sense. I feel like, there's definitely the anti-captivity crowd out there, and they have their thoughts about, especially things like sharks and cetaceans and stuff. But I feel like one of the things that gets missed so regularly is the fact that just because animals do a behavior in the wild doesn't necessarily mean that they want to. Like humans, we used to, when you look at our history, we used to move around a lot and not have DoorDash and Netflix. But boy, do we like our DoorDash and Netflix, and grocery stores and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess, not to anthropomorphize too much, but the idea here is that y'all are the DoorDash, and that because of that, the sharks don't need to go hunting. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we have target trained them. So sharks are able to be target trained, again, people think that sharks can't be trained. They're not a dolphin. They're not a whale. They're not a seal, the things normally associated with training with animals, but they are trained. So we actually have 2 people that feed every time. So one person feeds the sand tigers and another person feeds the sandbars, and they're on the opposite sides of the exhibit. So like the sandbars go to one side, sand tigers go to another side. And, if they don't want to eat, they don't come over to that feed station. So, it's almost exactly like a DoorDash. Yeah. So we're there really delivering their food for them, and just here you guys go.
That's awesome. What kind of training, like how do you train a shark for that? Talk me through that.
Yeah, we have a pole, a target pole that we have the fish onto. And then we establish it by putting like targets in the water. So like different, like basically they were like bucket lids. So like a blue bucket lid we put in on a pole in the water. And then, once a sandbar came over there, they got near that, we fed them. So they kind of associated that area with feeding. So if a sand tiger came to that area, they would not get fed. So they would have to recognize that, oh, I need to go over to that side and get fed. So if I want food, I got to go over here. If not, all right, I don't need to eat today. So yeah, it took a little bit, but all the sharks are pole fed. There's no hand feeding, obviously,
because there might then be some hand feeding. So yeah,
everything, every individual shark is trained to feed off of a pole.
Okay, very cool. And I guess one of the things that I'm trying to figure out here is so what is a shark's visual acuity like? Because I know that you mentioned a blue training thing, right? A target. Couldn't think of the word. So can they tell that it's a blue target? Do we know what sharks see like? Is that more to help y'all out?
It's more to help us out and also the target was in different shapes. So we'll have like a triangle or a square or a circle or something like that. They do have decent eyesight. It's not the best, but they have a fairly good eyesight. I mean, they use most of their other senses, like the ampulla of Lorenzini, which helps them detect, electrical receptors in the water. So like a fish's heartbeat or, movement in the water, like some like pressure and all that. So they have like these jelly-filled pockets in their rostrum around their nose. So they sense all that. So they use that as more of detecting an organism in the water or something in the water so they can go hunt it. Their eyesight, not the best, but it's not the worst either. Like you said, I mean, with shark attacks, like most of them are, cases of mistaken identity. So they see a surfer at the surface of the water with a surfboard looking like a seal, and they go up and attack it. But then once they realize what it is, it's like, oh nope, that's not what I wanted. I actually saw like a really cool experiment one time where somebody put 3 surfboards in the water with blood dripping into the water. One was cow's blood, one was fish blood, and one was just seawater. And all the sharks went to the fish blood, and none went to.
Oh wow!
Like 1 or 2 went to the one with the cow's blood. So they're not attracted to that, mammal blood. They're more attracted to the fish blood. So like it was really like a really awesome experiment, and you can see that like yes, sharks don't want anything to do with humans. So once they realize what they have, then it's like, oh, never mind, I don't want that. So that's why like a lot of people with shark vision think that they don't have good vision, but it's not bad. It's not the worst, but
okay, interesting. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you go in with the sharks, and so you kind of killed my next question because I was going to be like, but what if you like cut your finger?
Yeah.
But okay, so we know that won't be a big deal. But like, tell me about when you go in with the sharks, and I assume you're doing a wetsuit and all of that. Tell me what life is like with sharks underwater.
Yeah. So part of our job at the aquarium is maintaining our exhibits. So we got to get in and clean the acrylic and scrub the rocks and gravel or vacuum all the gravel. So like basically just clean the water up, clean the exhibit up. So once we get in, basically all of our sharks stay at the surface or like a few feet below the surface, like kind of mid water column. And we just go right down to the bottom. So they don't bother us. We don't bother them. We kind of stay out of their way. And whenever we're in there, we have a safety diver with us just in case, anything happens, or just so somebody has an eye out on all the sharks and see if any shark gets too close, we don't actually bump into it or anything like that. So we're very safe when we're getting in the water. But there are times where they're animals, so we have to be cautious of them, and we have to always like look around and make sure that, the sharks, we know where the sharks are. So every time we turn a corner, got to make sure like you kind of peek out and see if a shark's coming or not. If a shark is one of our sand tigers like laying down or something like that, we have just kind of, take a wide berth around her and not spook her or anything like that. So it's very it's fun to dive with the sharks because, getting in the water and seeing a sand tiger up close, a couple feet away from you is pretty exhilarating. I've been here for 12 years, and I love it every time. We actually have a program where guests can come in on the weekends and do our shark and ray encounter. It's just a little snorkeling experience. And
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Hi, this is Kathy Hill from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We're all about restoration projects in progress this season on One Lagoon, One Voice. Learn about the great strides the lagoon community is taking to restore and protect the Indian River Lagoon. Each week, we dive deep into discussions with scientists, resource managers, and nonprofit leaders to explore lagoon issues and solutions. From oyster reefs to clam restoration, algae blooms to muck, you'll learn all about the projects we're tackling to bring the Indian River Lagoon back to health. Click the link in the show notes to follow One Lagoon, One Voice, learn about the IRL Council, and explore our unique lagoon.
I'm sorry, I'm cracking up because Lauren, who is the person who set all of this up and is doing PR, is nodding very, very happily that this has come up authentically in the podcast. And it wouldn't be this show if I didn't call you out for that. But I mean, it is important to promote this stuff. That's why you're on the podcast.
Yeah,
so I was just very entertained by that.
Yeah. It's a guest experience where people can book a reservation and come in. And they get in the water with the sharks, and they're behind a rock wall in the water with the sharks, but like the sharks literally come inches away from you guys.
Okay, so I've been coming here since before I moved down here, maybe 7 years ago, and I did not know that was a thing. And I've done some of the experiences here, and I'm a member. So
there's a giant banner.
Well, so to be fair to me, when I get to the aquarium, I tend to run in like a 5-year-old and immediately make my way to sea turtles, as they are one of my favorite animals. And then I kind of circle back and see some of the other stuff.
All right.
But yeah, so I missed that on the giant banner. And now I want to do that. That sounds amazing. Yeah, what kind of sharks do you get to meet when you do that?
So our sharks in our shark realm exhibit, so there's our sand tigers and our sandbars. Our sandbars are the ones that really come really, really close to the wall. So like I said, like some of them like to swim with their fin like almost touching the wall, so it's literally like 5 inches away from you.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I need to do that. That's beyond.
So you're in the water for a total of 45 minutes. You do 15 minutes with the sharks, and then we have a sectioned off corner where we have a bunch of stingrays, so cow-nose stingrays, southern stingrays. You go in there for 15 minutes and you feed them, you swim with them, you pet them, you love them. You know, they're everybody's favorite thing, puppy dogs of the sea or whatever. Right. And then you go back out of the sharks for another 15 minutes, so a total of 45 minutes. So it's a pretty long encounter.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you mentioned rays, and not to divert too much, but in my experience, so I travel all around the country, and I go to places, and I have cool animal experiences whenever possible. And I take friends whenever I can to do some of the not behind the scenes stuff, but the feedings and stuff. Mm-hmm. I've had so many friends, feed giraffes and feed the times that they feed stingrays. I hear more screams, more people are afraid. Yep. I don't know what it is, but do you ever encounter that on these encounters?
Absolutely. It's at least
funny.
It's almost like one person every encounter is actually afraid of a stingray. Like they just, because you have this animal that's kind of coming over top of your hand and sucking the fish away from your right out of your hand. You hear squeals of laughter and squeals of fear all the time. Some people don't even want to get in with the stingrays. Mm-hmm. They like the sharks more than the stingrays. We have to sometimes hold people's hand.
That's amazing.
Help them get over that fear of the stingrays. Because I do think there's a little bit of a misconception about stingrays as well with what happened to
Steve Irwin.
Irwin. So. But we
weirdly that did not happen in a touch tank at an aquarium, though.
Yeah.
Weirdly,
was out in the wild. But yeah, all the stingrays here, we trim their barbs. They're like our fingernails, so they're always constantly growing back. So every 3 to 6 months, we'll pull them and we'll clip their barbs and make them dull. But it's a last case defense for stingrays. They will never sting someone if they can flee. Flee is their first type of defense, but if not, then they'll try to use their barb, but they've never tried to use their barb against somebody.
Right. Makes sense. And when they eat, it's just their mouths go over you and they suck. It's kind of, I mean, I'm just going to say it. It's adorable.
Yeah, it's
right?
like a little vacuum cleaner.
Yeah,
We tell everybody so like you feel it suck right out.
I cannot understand. I have had friends try multiple times and scream and like throw the fish away.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's it's the least scary animal experience if you can get past the, irrational fear of just stingrays.
If you just hold your hand flat and the fish sticking up out of your hand, then, they just come right over and just basically flat palm right on the top of your hand and suck it right out.
Yeah. Coolest thing ever. And it just doesn't, they're not going to bite you. That's not how.
No, they don't have teeth. They have hard bony plates inside.
Right,
it's like a shark. They have these plates that fall out, but they're little grinding plates. So as long as you don't get your finger in their mouth, they're not going to bite your hand.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So enough about stingrays. Let's get back to it's not Stingray Appreciation Month. Let's so you have sand tiger and sandbar. Can you talk about can you basically describe those two types of sharks?
Sure. A sand tiger is they have many different names. They're also like a gray nurse shark over in Australia. They're called ragged-tooth sharks because they have this very menacing looking mouth with all their teeth sticking out. But I mean, they're not very menacing at all. They just look mean. But they're basically they get to about 10, 11, 12 feet long. They're like a brownish tan color. And they're coastal sharks, so they're all up and down the Atlantic coast here. So you can find them in the bays, you can find them off the ocean, right close to the shore. They're a pretty cool species of shark. They like to go deep, in the winter months. They'll come close to the bays and that kind of stuff to give birth, and then they'll go back out and go deeper in the water, so they'll stay away. That's a sand tiger. They actually have a really cool ability where they kind of come up to the surface of the water and they'll kind of breach their mouth and gulp air.
Oh, wow.
And then they'll swallow air and put it in their belly, and that kind of helps them with their buoyancy.
Wow.
So I don't know of too many other sharks that do that, but we see it all the time at the aquarium where, people standing across our shark bridge will see a sand tiger come up and its mouth will come out of the water and they'll scream and they get scared, but it's not jumping out at you. It's just gulping some air and putting it in its belly and helping with its buoyancy. They actually have an ability to lay down on the exhibit as well. So they can lay down and, pump water over their gills. So a lot of sharks have to keep moving in order to survive. So the water goes over their gills and they, absorb that oxygen from the water. But sand tigers can lay down and, we'll find them sleeping sometimes. So, Then we have our sandbar sharks, which are all called brown sharks. So they're, pretty much coastal as well, all over the world. They're about 8 feet long average. And they're like a bluish gray color, which I don't know why they're called brown sharks when they're like a bluish gray color. We call them our browns. But they're just kind of like one of those other shark species that are just around all the time. There's nothing too special about them. There's just one of those cool sharks.
I won't let them know that you said that.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I love them all the same. They definitely do have their personalities too. So you can see each individual shark and their personalities, which is kind of cool. A few years ago, we actually had one of our sandbars give birth. So it was one of the second time that we've ever had it happen. So we were very excited with that. It was born October 2018. She had 8 pups, and we were able to give some away to our sister aquarium and all that kind of stuff. So
nice.
Yeah. So it's a big achievement for us, I guess, having shark reproduction. So that's pretty cool. Then we have our lone Atlantic blacktip reef shark in there. So he's all over the place. He's the small shark in there. He zips around. He kind of tends to steal fish from other sharks' mouths. So he's kind of crazy. But again, he's all over the Atlantic coast here, up and down. So they're fairly common as well. And then the other species that we have in our shark realm is our nurse sharks. Everybody knows nurse sharks. They're like the cuddly sharks. Everybody, if you go down the Bahamas and do shark feedings and stuff like that, they're the ones that kind of come around the most. But our nurse sharks, you might not see them, but you might see them. They tend to lay on the bottom of the exhibit where the water comes returns back into the exhibit from the filtration, and they basically stick their mouths up against the pipe, and basically it just breathes for them. They're fat, rolly little sharks. If they turn to the side, you see their fat rolls along their body, which is kind of cute.
Nice. Why are they called nurse sharks?
Their mouths are very different than a regular shark because they have basically when they open their mouth, it's like a suction, like a stingray.
Oh, okay. And that's why they're called nurse sharks then?
Yeah. So they make a suckling sound when they come out, their mouth comes out of the water.
Nice. That's really weird and interesting. And I feel like, I know Jaws was a white shark, but I feel like Jaws kind of gave a bad name to sharks in general, because this sounds much cuter and lazier than what happened there in Amity.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaws is still one of my favorite movies of all time. But
it's a good film.
It's great. But I know, the author, Peter Benchley, he after that came out, he kind of was regretted writing that book and everything about it. And he's written more books about conservation efforts with sharks and kind of being an advocate for sharks.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
He kind of dedicated his career after Jaws to making sure he reversed that misconception and that stigma about sharks. So he's worked really hard for that.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
I like that. That's pretty cool. And then I feel like there's a shark that we've missed.
Yeah.
And it's possibly the most important one here.
Absolutely.
One of only, I think, 2 in captivity in the country right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it's in our Ocean Realm exhibit. So he's our great hammerhead.
Yes.
Which is, a big thing for us because like you said, we're only one of 2 places in all of North America with a great hammerhead in captivity.
And it was the only for a long time until Georgia opened their new exhibit, right?
Yeah. They just opened it up about a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous. I highly recommend if you ever get down there. It's a nice setup.
Yeah. But we've had him here for about 10 years or so. Or maybe 8 years or so, something like that. We got him as a pup, and he's grown into a monster that he is. He's
huge.
He's about 11 feet long now, and he's still growing. So he's only 8 years old, and he's going to be a big boy. He's fun. He does not mind you in the water. He'll come right next to you, and it's that's alarming to see a big 11-foot hammerhead shark come right at you, and it's oh, there you are. But he just comes in, he's curious, he just looks at you and is oh, hey how you guys doing? I'm here just to let you know. But he's definitely our focus shark, our big spotlight shark that everybody come see.
So what is it? What made Adventure be the one, and now 2, but the one to get a hammerhead?
Yeah, I think we've always tried to do something different and something cool and something that nobody's seen before. So we've had tiger sharks before, and I don't think anybody's really tried tiger sharks. But after those, then we were all right, what can we do next? And it was let's do a great hammerhead and see how it does. And it's worked out really, really well. And that way other aquariums have used our information with hammerhead species. We've had scalloped hammerheads and great hammerheads and bonnet heads and all that in our Ocean Realm exhibit. And, they've used our records and our advice and how to take care of them in their exhibits.
All right. We'll be back after this quick break.
What if I told you scientists discovered 100 new species in the deep ocean?
Why did crocodiles survive extinction?
Megalodon. How did it go extinct?
Hey, it's me, Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist. You might know me from Joe Rogan's podcast or my various TV shows like Extinct or Alive and Shark Week. Join me and my friends as we dive into the wild world of animal anomalies and everything wildlife. Don't miss out. Click here to uncover these mind-blowing animal mysteries.
I'm not going to lie. Every time I see a bonnet head, because you see bonnet heads everywhere now.
Yeah.
And I'm always oh, this would be so much cooler if I didn't live right by Adventure Aquarium.
Yeah, they're they're a 2, 3, 4 foot long species of hammerheads, and they're cute. They're fine,
yeah,
but
cool.
Nothing it compares to a great hammerhead and seeing how massive they are.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the few things that can distract me from the sea turtles when I'm over there.
Yeah,
so,
and he's in the same exhibit as sea turtle, so it's competing with you.
Yeah. So you mentioned individual personalities. species.
Yeah.
And so now it is the time to talk up some of your sharks. I want you to tell me about a couple of the personalities that you connect with, or that are just the most unique.
Okay. Yeah. So, our sharks, we don't actually they don't have names like like George or Frank or anything like that. We name them basically by their species and their number that they've come in. So like we have our brown sharks, which are our sandbar sharks. We call them B and a number. So in order of which they came. So we have a shark that's B12, very recognizable. She has like 3 little wrinkles on her right pec fin. And she is a beast when it comes to feeding time. Like she will splash everywhere and try to bully the other sharks and get as much food as she can. She eats at least like 10 fish at every feed. So she's crazy. As soon as the fish hits the water on that pole, you can see her darting over like, oh, it's feeding time. Let's go. And she's pretty crazy. Then we got some other ones that are a lot calmer. Like our mom shark, our B18, the one that gave birth a couple years ago. She's very calm. She comes over and, she eats off the pole and you just feel her like nibble at the fish. Like she's like a very, like a calm dog. If you like hand feed a dog and they like use their front teeth to take the food out of your hand,
right.
She's doing that off the pole. She just kind of bites it and then was like, okay, thanks. I'll be back.
Nice.
Like I said, like our nurse sharks, their personality, they just like to lay on the bottom and they're very lazy. Our sand tigers, they all pretty much have the kind of same personality, but again, it's like mostly their feeding response and how they take the food off the pole. Some snap very hard and to get the fish off the pole, and like sometimes they'll bite the pole, and we literally fight with the shark to get the pole out of their mouth.
Oh, wow.
Once they bite the pole, they're not letting go, and we just basically have to let it go. And like, well, I guess we'll have to dive to go get that pole later. Thanks for taking the pole out of my hand. So like, it's when you feed, it's knowing individual sharks and how they react and how they bite, and how to target them better. But yeah, so some are a little bit nuttier than others, I would say.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And you said that they don't have names.
Right.
Hammerhead has a name.
Hammerhead,
right? Come on.
he does actually have a name because
on.
He's special, right? So
Right.
he's got to have his own name. His name is Anchor. It was actually our guests voted for that name. So it was a competition and a contest, and Anchor won out. So his head looks like an anchor.
Yeah.
His cephalofoil.
Better than Sharky McSharkface.
Right,
So,
exactly. That might have been in the running. I think something Bodie McBoatface or something like that.
Boy. So there's a belief commonly held amongst people that all sharks need to swim all the time in
Right.
order to stay alive.
Yes.
And you keep talking about sharks sleeping on the bottom.
Right.
And now you did mention the vent thing. So talk to me about that. Is that real? Is that different from species to species?
It is real, and it is different from species to species. So like I said, the brown sharks are sandbar sharks, Atlantic blacktip, the silky sharks, all those need to keep swimming in order to breathe. They basically need that water going through their mouth, over their gills, and out their gills, so their gills can absorb that oxygen. Other species, like a sand tiger, they're strong enough where they can lay on the bottom. They kind of pump their jaw a little bit and pump that water in and out of their gills. So, but the majority, like a great hammerhead, has to keep swimming. Anytime we do a procedure on a shark and we flip them and put them in a tonic, it kind of like they go into like they're paralyzed once they go upside down. We have a ram vent, basically a pump, an underwater pump, and with oxygen, and we just pump it into their mouth. So they're always getting water flowing over their gills so they get that oxygen.
Okay, so they're swimming even when they're not swimming.
Basically, yeah.
that's
I mean,
cool.
the water
That's
is
cool.
still moving through their
Right.
mouth, over their gills. So it's easier, so they can get that oxygen and survive.
Okay, very cool. Very, very cool. I have to ask because I would be remiss not to. Now, I know that you said that you feed them very well and that they don't eat the animals and stuff. But every once in a while, I know that something may happen in the world. It's wild animals. What happens if something like that happens?
It's it's call of the wild, call of nature. It's their natural instinct. But I mean, most of the time it doesn't happen. But if it does, it's one of those things that it's a shark being a shark.
Okay, cool. I just, I was curious.
Yeah.
And I know that it's incredibly rare. I've been here. I've spent so many hours in this building, and I've never seen that particular thing happen. But, animals are animals. They got an animal. That's one thing that we've learned on this podcast. And I think it's important to be upfront and honest about that while at the same time saying we do everything in our power to take, good care of it. So that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, we try. I mean, we try to curb that behavior as much as possible. With the feedings, even when we're not feeding the sharks Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we do broadcast feed. So like other fish, like chopped up fish is getting put in the water for all the other fish. So if the shark is so inclined, they want to eat something that day, they can eat out of the broadcast feed, which, our little Pacific blacktip in ocean realm does that. It's starting to eat out of the broadcast. The silky sharks do that.
Cool.
So not only are they eating Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but they're eating whenever they want to as well. So, the broadcast feeds kind of curb that as well.
Very cool. When you feed them, do you track exactly how much each shark eats? Or okay, so you have to like really keep track of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's we are an AZA accredited facility. It's a requirement. So sharks are required to eat 1 to 3% of their body weight every week.
Nice.
So we have weighed them and we know what that percentage is, and so we record that every time they do a feeding. So I can track how much they're getting on a weekly basis, and if they're falling out of range or if they're over the amount, like B12 is probably over her amount. We can kind of like, all right, you don't need to eat that much today. Right. So we can start targeting ones that, have gone through a fasting period or something like that. We have actually, when we do a shark feed, we have one person feeding the sandbars, one person feeding sand tigers, and one person recording. So I'll be feeding the sandbars and I'll yell out, B12. And so on and so forth. Right. And they'll just kind of record as we go along, and then I'll enter that into a database and can pull those numbers and, calculate everything.
Awesome. Love it. Very cool. Yeah. Is there anything else? Yeah, science is good. Science is good. We like science on this, science podcast. Is there anything else that you wanted to tell me about this before we move on to our last two?
Well, like our shark conservation, our, shark awareness month, it will be in August. So is this airing in August?
Yeah, we'll drop this right at the beginning of that.
Okay.
To talk
So our Shark Awareness Month will be happening all of August. Coincides with Shark Week. Everybody loves Shark Week. So come out and see us.
Love it. And then, are there any conservation organizations you'd like to give a shout out to?
I think OSearch does a great job. We donate a lot of our money to AZA Safe. So it's basically AZA conservation effort. So that a lot of zoos and aquariums donate to. So we like to give back.
Very cool. I love it. And then last but not least, it's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show, but there's one tail left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
I've been waiting for this one. So this doesn't have to do with a shark or anything like that. It's one of our sea turtles. His name is Ozzy. We got Ozzy about 6 or 7 years ago as a hatchling. And Ozzy's our special sea turtle. He was not he not meant to survive his hatching, and we got him from the Fish and Wildlife because he's deemed non-releasable. So he has no use of his rear flippers. He's got muscle atrophy. So it's a lot of love and care with the Ozzy as he was growing up. But as we were in a system, like cleaning a system, he was out in one of our quarantine systems. I'd dive it and clean it. He literally would poop all over me. And I'm not exaggerating that. I would be on the bottom of the exhibit and he would swim over top of me and just circle right above me and just carpet bombing me. It's disgusting. Sea turtle poop is not like, sometimes it comes out as, a solid mass, but it's very loose and it just fell all over top of me. And my standby diver was just laughing uncontrollably laughing at me. I was like, "Are you seeing this?" And he's like, "Yep." He's just circling right above you, just letting it all out. And yeah, it was pretty gross. Pretty gross.
Nice. All right. Well, Ozzy is one of my faves here, so it's nice to have a poop story from Ozzy. So thank you so much for taking the time
Absolutely,
to do this.
my pleasure.
And there you have it, folks. Sharks. Yay. So I have to eat a little crow here, not literally. I haven't captured a crow or anything. But if you've been paying attention, you may have noticed that I made a whole big deal on our last Adventure Aquarium episode about how it was the last one in the series and it had meant so much to me that I got to do all of this and blah, blah, blah. And now here we are with a 5th episode in the Adventure Aquarium series. Well, what happened is that as I recorded that 4th one, it was wildly late at night, and I had looked at my little spreadsheet where I track all of my guests to make sure that I wasn't forgetting another Adventure Aquarium episode, and I guess I skipped right over this one. So all of the things that I said back in that episode are still true. I'm wildly thankful to Adventure Aquarium. I think it's been amazing to get to do a 5-episode series from there. I'm very excited to have shared these amazing people with you. I'm thankful to everyone at the aquarium who made it happen. All the things that I said before super passionately, still true. And now this is actually the last one in this 5-episode series, although y'all know I'm going to try and get back to Adventure and do some more interviews down the road. But yeah, I love sharing Adventure Aquarium with y'all because it's such a great place and I spend so much time there. And if you want to check them out on the online, they are at Adventure Aquarium on the socials and adventureaquarium.com on the internet. All right, friends, remember, if you are a shark, the way you say the word credits backwards is Stydirk, 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 Stydirk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Vesley Gross. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.